Hi, I'm Dr. Kate Kresge, a naturopathic doctor and a huge fan of the Redefining Medicine podcast. Like you, I tune in to get inspired by the visionaries who are moving whole person care forward. Whole person care takes a whole lot of work, and staying inspired is half the battle. The other half? Finding the right partners to support your practice. That's where FullScript comes in. FullScript helps you capture patient data, dispense supplements, order lab testing, and keep your patients on track, all in a single platform that's completely free. FullScript helps you streamline your workflow, grow your practice, and deliver whole person care at scale. And with FullScript's acquisition of Rupa Health, you'll have access to even more lab tests on top of the 1,000 already on the platform. I can think of 100 reasons to join FullScript, and you can read more about them at fullscript.com/A4M. Now, back to the podcast.
Welcome to Redefining Medicine, an intimate and personalized program that illustrates a different side of the practice of medicine. Our in-depth conversations will focus on the physicians and practitioners who are redefining medicine through their integrative, functional, and holistic approach to health and well-being. Our host for Redefining Medicine is Dr. Erica Schwartz. For more than 20 years, Dr. Erica has been at the forefront of advanced patient care, taking the best from conventional and integrative medicine and applying them to prevent disease. Dr. Erica is a distinguished A4M faculty member in disciplines ranging from hormone therapy, peptide therapy, and IV nutritional support.
Hi, so this is Spring Congress 2025, A4M in Palm Beach. The speakers at A4M are unbeatable. Towards that end, I want to introduce you to somebody really special, Dr. Helen Messier, who is the director of Fountain Life, but that's really not what is the most important part of it. The most important part of it is who you are as a person and what your expertise is and what your passion is about. So tell us about it, Helen.
Wow, that's a big topic, Erica.
Hey, I opened
First
it to
of
you.
all, I agree with you on being here at A4M is so fun. It's such an amazing group of people. You know, I got to speak this morning, and it was the energy and the attention and everybody wanting to learn and share, and that's exciting. That's part of my passion is how do we get this information? How do we learn from each other and get this information out to help as many people as possible? And really, we can only do that together. Mm-hmm. You know, we're in this world of AI and this world of, knowledge at your fingertips, yet I think there's still so much knowledge in that experience that we all have, that day-to-day interaction with our patients that we need to share with each other so that we can learn from each other. And I think that's not in books.
No.
Right, how do you actually do that? So that's part of my passion. But
sounds good to me. I love it.
Yes, I love research. My background is an immunologist. I did my Ph.D. in immunology, and and we talked about earlier. I'm from Canada, Canadian.
That's
made
right.
my way down. Did med school after doing my postdoc in immunology. So I've really been very, very interested in what I call that translational gap. Right, what we know in the scientific world, what's published in the literature, and what we actually practice in clinical medicine, I think most people know is 15 to 20 years. That's probably why most of you are here at A4M, and most of the practitioners listening are really interested in that. How do we close that translational gap and take advantage of that? So I've been doing that for really my whole career. I've seen a lot of very complex chronic patients. In my past life, I founded concierge medical practices in Canada and really tried to think about how do you create the best medicine, best medical care possible, right? What would you do? And you would look at the whole person, right? You would see, like body, mind, spirit is really that important part. And so through the course of doing that, I went from really taking one patient at a time and seeing patients to starting to teach, right? Hiring other physicians and teaching them on how to do this. But then researching and publishing as well is a really important part of that. And so I kind of came down to the U.S. and have worked at Human Longevity I got a chance to, again, when now you have a lot of money, now you have like, what can you do? So through the course of my career and seeing patients, I also developed, and I think a lot of our practitioners do, you develop a reputation of being the doc you go to when you don't, everything else has failed. Right? They've gone to every other doctor in the system. They're really looking for answers, and then they come and see you. And I think everybody listening probably can identify with that, with that situation. But I really found that through that, the people would come from Mayo with their binders of results, and they'd drop them on your desk, and you go, okay, now what do I do? But I love that, because that was the start, right? You could trust that all the basics were done. Stuff that you needed to rule out, we knew that would be done. But now where do you go from there? Right. And so I found I needed a better toolkit. So I started doing things, whole genome sequencing. And I worked with Illumina. I started doing metabolomics and worked with a company called Metabolon, and really tried to get sort of more of those omics technologies and see if we could apply those in clinical care more real time instead of just in the research world. So that's what brought me down to HLI. I worked in a consumer-directed microbiome company for a while to, again, see if we could get this to more people, right? And I thought maybe a DTC or a direct-to-consumer model might be the way that we could do that. So that, long way around, I'm currently, as you mentioned, at Fountain Life as the Chief Medical and Science Officer, and really, again, trying to scale this, because the key has always been, how do you democratize, how do you make this information that I think everybody needs to know about?
Sure.
How do you make that available to people that need it?
Right.
Yeah.
And what's the answer?
Well, still working on it.
Oh, okay.
But I think that's the point, is to teach other doctors, right? Because the more of us
education,
the more of us that can practice this, and A4M does such a good job of that.
Right.
The more of us that can learn and practice this is critical.
Right.
Is publishing and getting that information out to everybody,
right,
and learning what works and what doesn't, right, and sharing that knowledge. I think now with AI, we're going to make that even more available to people, but we have to do that with caution, I think, and help start training some of these models in a different approach, because yes, they can pass the USMLE, but are they really going to look at the root cause and underlying reason why people
are they going to actually look at the patient?
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. Yeah.
So right.
Yeah.
So that's great. That sounds wonderful. So what do you like about your present job that inspires you?
Yeah, so at Fountain Life, we're really sort of trying to change the conversation around medicine, from, again, reactive, as our typical conventional system is, waiting for a symptom to happen before you do anything, to being much more proactive, and really in this field of longevity. As I said, one of our founders, Peter Diamandis, likes to say the first step in longevity is not dying of something stupid, right? So finding things early, and then using the tools that we have available to go further and further upstream, right? The earlier we can find these, not just diseases, but these dysfunctions that result in disease over time, or even the lifestyle factors that we know over time can result in disease, the better. Right. So using technology, doing, right now we're using, it's very expensive, full body MRI, CT scans, doing a really good look at what's going on inside someone's body. Looking at underlying causes under the microbiome and full genome sequencing, and I think we do a very good job of finding things early, and then we're also taking that information and publishing it, right, so that people can learn from what we're seeing,
right,
and then over time the hope is to democratize this by really identifying what are the key things you need to know, right? Do you have to do this big workup on everybody, or are there certain biomarkers, certain things that will be the most predictive for people? Right. And I think that's really.
And how's that moving? In what direction?
I think it's getting there, right? That I think we're not there yet. With the pattern recognition now, with the ability to use AI and some of the machine learning models, we're seeing much more information. And I think the answer is not going to be one single biomarker or
Of
one
course
single.
not.
It's going to be patterns of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So that's passion creating.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You have such an interesting journey because you've gone through, I think maybe because you're a researcher at heart, and that's taken you. How do you feel about research and the clinician? And what you said, which is so true, and we all know that it takes way too long for research data to actually be translated into clinical practice. And I think at A4M, the education we provide, it will actually create a much shorter time span between that because we bring in really cutting edge researchers and we bring in, from the lab to the practice and we teach them how to do it very well. But talk to me about how do you feel about the clinical application of, at this point, where you are? How is that coming together?
Yeah, I like what you said about, I think clinicians and researchers have to talk to each other.
Yeah, no
Right?
kidding.
We need to not
Or
just,
become one.
not just wait to read the paper, but actually
Right.
find out what's going on underneath that. And you don't always have to wait for that
No.
10,000 person double-blind randomized
No,
placebo-controlled
totally,
trial to
totally.
actually learn from the research,
Right.
right? Some basic mechanistic research, I think can be really valuable, especially when the intervention is low risk.
Right.
Right? What's the risk of changing your diet?
Not much.
Right? With
Right.
the potential benefit of
Right,
being huge.
right.
So I think we can take advantage of a lot of that right away by looking at the literature. You don't have to wait for the big trials. And so I think all of us should be publishing case studies.
Right.
Right? We need to get this information out there. And one of my, I've been thinking about this a lot, the collective mind is much smarter than any one individual.
Sure.
Right? And so, we all learn certain things in med school, and then we learn things when we come to conferences like this from each other, which is a huge step. But the most of the time we learn by seeing patients.
Right.
Right? We learn from that experience, that day-to-day interaction.
Totally.
We see what works. We see what doesn't. We see what works for certain individuals that might not work for a different individual. Right? And so that wisdom of experience is huge. And we need to be able to learn from each other on that.
Right.
And I think that's, what things like this do, but also we should start publishing. I find so much value in finding case studies, where you go, I wonder if anyone else has seen this before.
Right.
Right? And you start looking.
And how do they handle it? How did they handle it?
what did they do?
Right.
And what
Right.
was effective? What wasn't?
Right.
I think we do a disservice if we don't share that with the world. So I know it's...
Yeah, I think the problem is really that, people are so limited on time.
It's time.
And then the lack of education as far as what do you have to do to get things published? What do you have to do to write about it? I mean, we have AI that's helping out a lot, but it's like, how do you do it? And I think maybe that A4M will put in courses that will help you because I tell you, every time I get on stage, I talk about cases because I see patients 2 days a week. And the interesting thing is everybody wants to know about the patient cases. So you're right. It is all about case studies.
Yes.
And it's about how do we integrate that information and how do we do it? Well, since you published, go ahead.
Yeah,
tell
no,
us.
but I think that's exactly the point is just, case studies. Doesn't even have to be case series, right? Just one patient.
Right.
Publish what you see with one patient. And you're absolutely right. AI is making it so much easier.
Sure.
It will write your paper for you if you put the information
Totally.
in it. So
The correct
it makes it, you
hope.
need you hope.
You hope, right.
Don't let it hallucinate.
Yeah,
but,
right.
But it makes it so much easier. It's much more accessible now. Than it ever was in the past.
Right.
There's templates that you can use to help you through it. So it shouldn't be, you're right, we use time as an excuse a lot of times. We don't have time, and it's effort.
It is effort.
But that is how we're going to collectively all get better.
Correct.
Is by sharing.
Right. And next week, actually, we're in Chicago, and you coming to Chicago?
I won't be there.
Okay.
No.
Well, we're in Chicago, and one of the things I'm doing is I'm presenting like 4 case studies, and that's all. I'm not talking about anything else except for those case studies. And I think the more we do that, and it's only A4M that does it, it's really the more information gets translated into the private practices of the people in the audience.
Yeah.
So it makes a big difference.
It does.
So that's great.
It does.
Well, and it's
Yeah.
wonderful to have someone who's actually a researcher become a clinician and put the two pieces together. So thank you so much for joining us, Helen, and it's a pleasure as usual.
Thank you, Erica.
Thank
It's
you.
really fun.
Thank you.